They are both televisions with a liquid crystal display screen. They both feature full-array backlighting with local dimming and the Mini LED designation. Their brightness levels are adequate, though they vary depending on the picture mode. Whether the content is in standard dynamic range or high dynamic range, I find the viewing experience good on both models in terms of detail, contrast, and color volume. Speaking of color, both have quantum dot color technology, or at least they're supposed to. And in general, regarding color saturation, both offer settings that allow for much more saturated or vibrant results. The Samsung wins in this area due to its superior color saturation. But it looks quite exaggerated, and I am not suggesting you max out these settings. I just wanted to show you what both models are capable of in this regard. Let's say that even if you crank this up to the max, the TCL shows slightly more balanced results, while the Samsung exaggerates them too much if that is the case. But in general, you already know that with the Samsung you'll have greater color saturation capacity if you need it. And yes, it is true that the TCL is compatible with Dolby Vision high dynamic range technology, and the Samsung isn't. But I'll keep saying it, Dolby Vision isn't all that great. It is just a fancy name. I know many will criticize me for this, but that is the truth. I would tell you, don't stop yourself from buying a television just because it is not Dolby Vision compatible. HDR10 has little to envy in that technology, as you can see. And what about performance in dark scenes? You know both have liquid crystal display panels. In this case, VA type, meaning with vertical alignment and full-array direct LED backlighting technology, also known as Mini LED. Here I want to address this issue with the QN85F, which doesn't seem to be limited to my unit. Other users have also reported it with certain types of content in some applications. For some reason, when subtitles are displayed and local dimming is set to normal or high, a horizontal light halo or blooming effect appears from left to right across the entire screen, as you can see. I find it incredibly annoying, extremely distracting. This problem doesn't exist on the TCL, and yes, this issue, as you can see, is incredibly noticeable. It is awful. It is very distracting. The amount of blooming or light halos on the QN85F is horrendous, and as I said, it seems to be more than just a problem with my unit. If you own this model and notice this problem, please let us know in the comments. In fact, sometimes some horizontal blooming can also appear at the top. I don't know if it is a software issue that they might fix in the future. I hope so. One thing worth highlighting about the Samsung is that the blacks tend to look much deeper. The TCL isn't far behind. In some scenes, the C6K's performance isn't as good as the Samsung's, and in others, it is the other way around. The Samsung is a bit disappointing, and the TCL's results can be slightly better. This varies greatly depending on the scene, the content, and even the app, but the blooming or ring of light effect on the Samsung is definitely excessively annoying. I know that the performance in dark scenes is very important for someone who understands the subject and wants a mini LED television with full-array backlighting and local dimming. As I said, I prefer the depth of blacks on the Samsung, but the TCL also does a very good job. The problem with the QN85F is the blooming effect which it can sometimes display. I don't mean to say the TCL does a perfect job, just that in some scenes it might be slightly better or worse. The Samsung has the edge in terms of color accuracy and saturation out of the box, but the blooming effect is simply excessively annoying and, for me, a major drawback. If I had no other options, I would definitely go for the TCL C6K. Gray uniformity is slightly better on the Samsung, with less of a dirty screen effect. Although when viewing content with a lot of color, I don't think the dirty screen effect will be bothersome on either of them. Speaking of motion handling, when you have to observe scenes with camera panning or a lot of fast movement, I can tell you that although both tend to produce a very smooth, fluid image, the amount of artifacts or distortion when you apply digital enhancement, including dynamic acceleration on the TCL, is lower. In other words, the overall result is slightly better on the TCL. However, I don't mean to say that the Samsung's performance is bad. It is just that I perceived that difference when comparing them side by side. The QN85F's results are also very good. But again, from my perspective, the TCLs are a bit better, though not by a huge margin. For gaming, both TVs feature game bars with various functions. Regarding picture modes, the Samsung has a slight advantage. It offers more options, providing greater variety without impacting overall performance. The TCL, on the other hand, only has 3 picture modes, though this may be sufficient for most users. It is also worth noting that the Samsung has another slight advantage. All 4 of its HDMI 2.1 ports support 120Hz and 144Hz 4K with variable refresh rate technology, while the TCL only supports this on 2 of its HDMI 2.1 ports, which is likely enough for many users. Overall performance is quite good. I personally didn't notice any ghosting, but I am not a particularly demanding or experienced gamer. I don't know if someone with exceptional eyesight or a very discerning viewer would even perceive it. Moving on to the smart features. These are the remote controls. Here it is a matter of personal preference. I find the Samsung's remote more comfortable to hold, and it can be charged via solar panel or USB Type-C port. But the TCL's isn't bad either. The TCL's operating system is Android with the Google Television customization layer, which has the advantage of allowing you to install external APK files, while the Samsung's operating system is One UI Tizen and the apps vary considerably depending on the country. This is something I often criticize about the brand. Plus fact that since it is not based on Android, you cannot install external APK files. Both have voice assistants and a hands-free function. Regarding their shortcut menus, both have them. You can modify the order of these icons, but the TCL has the advantage of allowing you to add or remove shortcuts among all these options, while the Samsung doesn't. Furthermore, the TCL has another menu with additional shortcuts for applications, or for example, for inputs, which is very useful, and also for this multi-view function with more options, while the Samsung has multi-view, but only with these two options. To wrap up, I want to say that regarding the speaker system, both are fine in terms of power. It is just that I perceived a bit more bass in the TCL, but in the Samsung, although it feels less powerful, I noticed a better balance between bass and clarity. And that is it. If you ask me which model I recommend, considering the significant price difference, or at least the price difference in each country, the TCL is the smarter choice for most users. However, if you really like the Samsung brand, have the budget, and don't mind the issue I mentioned with dark scenes, go for it. Finally, I'd like to remind you that you can support my channel by purchasing a membership through my Patreon page, or by buying through the referral links I've included in the description and pinned comment. All of this will help me tremendously to continue creating content. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.